Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my weekly podcast. Today we have somebody from Serbia, Mr. Andrej Ševo. Hello, Mr. Ševo.
Hello, Eugene. Nice to speak with you.
Mr. Ševo, thank you for coming, and you are now podcasted. Just before starting, I would like to introduce you. So you are a student of PhD in the University of Belgrade for political science, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And you are participating on the protest against Vucic.
Yes, and I'm sincerely participating in all of them, and I would like to acknowledge that.
Okay. How is it going? How is the situation today in Serbia?
Yeah, well, the situation today is much different than what you might remember from the winter period of 24-25. Currently, the protests in Serbia are in a phase where they define or redefine themselves, so to say. It's a more quiet phase, a phase that expects something new to happen, and we are recording this before the November 1st, when we have actually a very large protest scheduled in Novi Sad for 1 year anniversary of the canopy collapse. So the trajectory of the protests will probably be much clearer after November 1st. But currently it is a more quiet stage after a very, I would say, very politically and violently charged summer that happened here in Belgrade and in the other parts of Serbia, when we saw police violence, when we saw violent protests, the clashes between the protesters and the ruling party members and para-police. And this is something much different compared to the beginning and initial phase of the protests, when everything seemed much clearer and more, let's say, Gandhi-like. Now the situation is much different. The violence is on the rise. The government is consolidating, and we're waiting to see actually what's going to happen after November 1st. The optimistic scenario is probably that the November 1st protests will bring new energy, new potential to the student movement and to the citizen movement against the current government. The pessimistic scenario would probably mean that the protests will, or at least the large protests, will cease after November 1st because nothing has been achieved. But let's see, and let's see what happens and find out.
Okay, but are still the students in the head of the protest?
The students are still the engine behind the protests, and the students are the ones who organize the November 1st protests. And we see some similarities with the initial phase of the protests, with the students walking from several cities in Serbia to Novi Sad. For example, the students from Novi Pazar have organized and walking 16 days to Novi Sad, which is an exceptional endeavor. And I sincerely wish them all the luck and nice journey. So we have some pictures which are quite similar to what we have seen before, but at the same time, the climate is much different. We have experienced violence. We have experienced clashes with the ruling party members, and right now the atmosphere is much different, and then we hope to see something new happen. But the students are still the vanguard and on the first lines of these protests. Definitely, we have also citizen assemblies and other groups of citizens who are participating, but somehow we still look at the students as a driving force, which is understandable. But at the same time, I think it puts a lot of pressure on the students who should be, I believe, one of the social actors, an important social actor, definitely. But still, I'm waiting to see more engagement from the citizens themselves. We cannot expect students to lead the way all the time.
Okay, but you said that the protests have become more violent. Have they become more violent from the side of the protests or from the side of the government?
From the side of the government. So the reason for the violence, quite often, and they became violent after the June 28th protests, when the first clashes with the police, or at least the first major clashes with the police, happened. But the violence of the July and August protests happened because the members of the ruling party actually attacked the protesting citizens who gathered near the Serbian Progressive Party headquarters in places like Novi Sad, Kraljevo, Valjevo, etc. In some places like Vrbas and Bačka Palanka, the members of the ruling party used various pyrotechnic devices in order to attack citizens. Some of them were badly injured. And this was actually the reason for the more violent protests in August, because people were infuriated that the ruling party members would actually attack them, and the police just stood by and did nothing. The police didn't dare intervening because the people who attacked the protesters were doing that from the headquarters of the Serbian Progressive Party, and it really showed that the police is not being objective, not treating us fairly, and instead actually prioritizing one side and its safety and its interest compared to the citizens. So this is how violence erupted. And we should be open about it and say that the responsibility lies, if not entirely, then definitely mostly on the Serbian Progressive Party and their activists.
Well, it's a bit ironic that the name of the party is Progressive, which seems not to be extremely progressive. But so, what does Vucic fears from this protest? Why is he so obsessed to finish them in this hard way?
Well, no matter the tone of the protest, the tempo, and so on. I think that what the student movement has shown so far is that a lot of people of Serbia are dissatisfied by how things are going and what happens to this country. The student movement, even if it fails, even if it ceases to exist in, let's say, next few months, it still won't erase the dissatisfaction and displeasement of people in Serbia. We have surveys, the public surveys done in this country, several of them, since December. The last one, I think, happened a few weeks ago, and they still revealed that most of the people in this country actually believe that Serbia is going towards bad direction, that they would still support the student movement. The percent that would support the student movement is actually larger than the percent that supports the Serbian Progressive Party. And Vucic also does his own research almost on a daily basis. And previously, Vucic was always eager to organize irregular elections because he always knew that he's going to win. Currently, he's not that confident. He doesn't believe that he's going to win these elections, or at least he's afraid that his victory is not certain. And I believe this is the reason why we don't have irregular elections. He's afraid that he might lose, even though the student movement has a lot of problems in organizing the student list. Still, the fear of actually having to face the student list and maybe unified opposition, or maybe opposition parties actually being organized on several different levels. But still, he's not confident that he's going to win, and that's the major reason why he's afraid. He recognizes that social mobilization happened, that people are not really afraid to. I will use one queer term to say that people are not afraid to come out of their political closets anymore, or at least on a much lesser level than it was than what we had a year ago. And this is what scares him. So this is a qualitatively different situation compared to what we had before. And the reason Vucic is not willing to accept irregular elections is the best proof of that, I believe.
Okay. But do you think that Vucic is getting, how can I say, a push from Russia as well to stay in power? Or even from his lobbying that he has done all these years, because he's afraid that if he loses the election, Serbia will take a more European way, or is not related to that?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I still believe that what we have, the current movement, which is against Vucic, is quite diverse. It is not entirely liberal movement or entirely nationalistic. So I think that the analytics who are giving their assessment of the protesting movement in Serbia, the student movement as well as the citizens who join them, usually tend to, interpret them from one of the sides, either as pro-Russian because there is some symbolism, or pro-European because they're striving for the reinstitutionalization of Serbia and the establishment of the rule of law. The movement is diverse, and currently the movement's top priority is actually toppling this government. Toppling the government peacefully, which would be idealistic, but as we know, it's not the only possible way. But still, asking for elections means that the movement still believes that it can topple the government peacefully and in a democratic manner.
Free election, I believe.
Exactly. So most of the people who participate are united behind that common goal. While some other ideological differences are put to the side, we tend to believe that once we get rid of this government, we will have fair elections and we will be able to actually face off ideologically and see where we stand. So I wouldn't call this movement liberal or pro-European as much as I wouldn't call it pro-Russian and nationalistic. I would probably call it popular. I think that's the right word. And we will see what happens and what comes out of it as a dominant force. Inside the protest itself, I think that the liberal, the citizen movement side is probably a bit stronger, or at least that's what some surveys show. But still, there are some people who are right wing, and there are some people who are political centrists. And I think the best way to understand it is that it is a popular movement. Although, I must say this as well, what is a primary goal and a primary requirement and a primary motivating factor behind these protests is the establishment of the rule of law, of democratic institutions, and to have a fair elections. And I think that the meta narrative of the protests themselves is liberal and institutionalist in its nature. Although the people who support the protests are, of course, the amalgam of different interests and ideological views.
Okay, well, but for me, it's very beautiful to see that people stand for their rights, stand for free elections, so
Yes.
a true democracy. And I think it's something that in the European Union is seen as something that it was in the history book and not today. As we do not have this kind of movements anymore in Europe. But
Well, if I may add one sentence, sorry,
please.
Eugene. So the very from the standpoint for someone who's concerned about the state of democracy, I think that the positive aspect of what's happening here, even if we count, even if we take into consideration that the movement is very diverse, is that the people who participate in the movement are being inspired by its democratic spirit. You can see that in the surveys of Serbian youth. Previously, in the surveys done by the various youth organizations in Serbia, the youth had a very ambivalent attitude towards democracy. Some of them respected democracy, but many youth believe that Serbia needs, like a strong man to run Serbia, to be a leader. But currently, the last result that we get is actually that the youth in Serbia is being very predominantly pro-democratic. That the democracy is being rediscovered as a good method of actually establishing the governments and changing governments if they're not doing the good thing. So I think that still the democratic seed is being in a fertile ground, and that's a good thing, and that's what makes me optimistic about this whole situation, is that the entire new generation is discovering democracy as a good system of governments.
Well, yeah, that's a very good thing because I come from Albania, and there we have a similar case with Edi Rama, who is a very authoritarian prime minister. Often said that he is the twin brother of Vucic, as both of them are tall and they have the same ideas and the same way of doing politics in their country. So I would like to say that I would like to see Serbia and this movement winning, and then see it, as it was the spring revolt in the Middle East, in the north of Africa. Sorry, to see it also in the Western Balkans, like people really start asking their democracy, starting a better future for themselves and a more economic power and better relationship between them, but also with the European Union. And here I would like to come with the next question. So we saw during the protest that you had some European members of the parliament, of the European Parliament, and we saw that Vucic didn't really like it. Do you think that the European Union is putting a pressure against Vucic, or is just a political moment for some MEPs to show their action with the student movement?
Yeah. So uh, at first, I don't think that European Union was engaged enough. Definitely, especially the European Commission. European Parliament is always a place where we have different voices and different groups, and of course, some of these groups are very vocal in support of the protests. The groups like European Democrats and the Greens and some members of the Renew Europe and so on. So the European Parliament is one thing. However, the Commission was not up to the task, I believe. It still isn't. Although I must notice that the attitude is changing somewhat. It is changing in a slow pace. We had some statements from Ursula von der Leyen when she visited Belgrade, which could be interpreted as implicit support for the protests in Serbia. She did acknowledge, that Serbia had some progress in its European integration process, but at the same time, she noticed that, freedom of protest, freedom of assembly should be respected, and that Serbia has a lot of problems and so on. So it could be interpreted as a criticism of Vucic, and I believe that some of Vucic's reactions, which were quite harsh, I believe, prove that he wasn't entirely happy with the outcome of this meeting. Plus, we should take into account that the approach of Ursula von der Leyen in Serbia was much different compared to her previous visits in Albania and in other Western European countries, primarily Albania, but. So we can see that von der Leyen had a more friendly approach there, that those meetings were actually easier, much more light-hearted or light-mannered. While in Serbia, there was some pressure and tension in the air, definitely, that you could feel. So it is different compared to what it used to be before. And I think that European Union is starting or at least the European Commission is starting to developed a more critical approach towards Vucic, which is a good initial step. It is a good starting point, definitely. But don't be fooled that some people who expect European Union to behave will be happy with only these small steps towards criticism. More will be needed. But still, I'm happy that some first shy steps are being taken, and I hope it goes further.
Okay. Well, I'm also very happy to see that there is a kind of a pressure towards Vucic. Very sad, as you said, to see that in Albania things are not the same. They really seem to like Edi Rama, even if the situation is terrible in Albania. But I would really like to see the movement winning, or at least being a very strong opposition of Vucic. I
Yes,
think.
and if I may be personal as well, I wish that good points be taken from the movement of Serbian students and citizens in other countries, Albania primarily. We are neighboring countries after all. We live in the Western Balkans. We're close to each other. The flight from Belgrade to Tirana is what? How long? I haven't been flying, but it's quite close. Yeah. So I wish that people can be inspired, at least by the pro-democratic and institutionalist spirit of what the Serbian protests are. And I think that aspect of the protests in Serbia definitely should be considered and be inspired by. I think that quite often, the analysts are being too focused on some other aspects, on some symbolisms, on why the protest is not homogeneous in certain aspects of its activities. But I think that no one can deny the pro-democratic and pro-institutionalist spirit of these protests in Serbia, and I hope to see something similar in other Western Balkan countries, Albania as well. I am quite familiar with who Edi Rama is, and I think that he deserves he deserves the reaction of the Albanian public for what he does in his country as well.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Well, Mr. Sheva, I would like to thank you for coming to my podcast, and I'm wishing you all the best, especially on November 1st. And maybe after that, we can discuss what happened during the protest and what the next day will be for Serbia.
Of course, Eugene, anytime. I enjoyed, and what can I say? I hope that I'm personally optimistic. I'm optimistic by nature, but at the same time, I believe that we have actually changed some things for good in Serbia. That we cannot return to the period before November 1st of 2024. And this is what drives my optimism. And I hope when I see you next time that who knows, maybe we will discussing the strategy for the next parliamentary elections, or perhaps even discussing about what the victory of the student list brings us. So let's
Hopefully,
finish the talk
hopefully.
in an optimistic tone.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you
Thank
everyone
you.
for watching my podcast. Follow us on our social media and see you next time. Goodbye.